Is Truth and Consequences with Steve Aste and Roy Piskadlo. We hope that everyone has had a great time with their family this last week and celebrating Christmas and the new year. This is Truth and Consequences, like I said, being brought to you by Main Street Media, Utah. It's a new platform where we try to give and are giving the people a voice. So it's a live call-in radio show. I'm going to give the number out several times, 385-899-2134. Maybe we can get our tech guy to flash it on the screen once in a while. I don't know if it's there or not, but we'll say it a few times. And we'd love to hear from you today. We actually have a special guest with us today, Gabby Pina. She is an American that came from Cuba and is part of the Utah Latino Republican group or the Utah Latino GOP group. And we will give you the information for that, and we'll bring her on sometime here very shortly, probably within that first half hour of our show, because we'd like to get talking with her and spend as much time with her as we possibly can. How are you doing, Roy?
Super duper. And you?
Never been better.
There you go.
But I expect to get better, as someone once said. So it's a big week, Roy. A lot of people are down at their clerk's offices, and if they're running for federal office at the state capitol, signing up as candidates to run for various office.
Yeah, I saw you down there yesterday.
And I happened to see you down there.
Yeah, there you go.
What did you sign up for?
I am running for House District 41 as for House Representatives, State House of Representatives.
And where is House District 41?
It's up around Cottonwood Heights, which is our neighborhood. You're my neighbor here, so up in this area.
Wish you hadn't said that, but okay. No, that's totally okay. I actually am running as well. I threw my name into the ring for Senate District 15, Utah State Senate. So that covers most of Cottonwood Heights, much of Sandy, Midvale, and even a little bit of West Jordan, I believe. So we both got our work cut out for us. We're running, at least, in all the conversations.
Well, I've never run for office, and I know you have, and you basically talked me into it.
Don't blame me.
Yeah, you did. You talked me into it and said I should give it a go. And you just never know.
He'd be a very good representative. I can attest to that. All of us need to stand up and take part some way. Not everybody's going to run for office. Not everybody's going to be able to put in big bucks, but all of us can stand up and let our voice be heard. Part of what we're doing here is that we're trying to give people a voice on KMMU.org, which will soon actually be broadcast out on the radio as well. We're currently on our website, and you can get to that two different ways. One is www.mainstreetmediautah.com, and the other is KMMU.org. All you got to do is get on there, go to the home page, and find the Listen Live tab. Click on it, and voila, here we are, live. And if you got your pencils ready, 385-899-2134. So, Roy, what's the real reason you got in personally? It's not because I talked you into it. Why do you feel compelled to do it?
Well, we say to people, and I've had people say to me, if you don't like the way things are running, get involved, make your voice be heard. And as I got more and more involved in the GOP and then doing this election integrity work by traveling around the state and meeting a bunch of different people, I said, I could probably be more effective if I was a member of the House of Representatives. And, it's kind of scary to basically hold yourself out and put yourself down to run for office. But when I think about all the people that we've met and all the conversations we've had on a lot of different topics that affect the state, including, and most importantly, in my mind, election integrity, I figured, why not? This just gives me a bigger platform, and I can keep pushing the message. And I may win, I may not, but I might as well try. And if you're certainly not going to win if you don't try, and I don't see it much downside.
Well, I happen to agree with you. And if we all don't try in some capacity to save this nation from becoming something that we don't want it to be, and we can see that everywhere you turn right now, from allowing grown men in women's locker rooms to having our elections blatantly stolen right in front of our face. And that, of course, is, as Roy mentioned, is what we're all about. We are actually, and for those that don't know and are just tuning in, have not heard our spiel before, we both got involved and soon realized that something wasn't right. So we really, with our elections and with our country, but it starts with our elections. It starts with God, and then it starts with our elections. We have gotten away from God as a country, and if you don't have a moral foundation, you don't have anything to base good principles upon. And so you can't base morality on nothing, thin air. You have to have a belief in something, otherwise it's essentially chaos. And after that, after God, comes having fair elections. If our elections are selections and not elections, we don't have much at all in this country, and it's just a matter of time before we're simply slaves to those in power and those that run the system. So we all need to stand up, and I mean now, because we are at the 11th hour and 59th minute. If two old guys like Roy and I see it, Roy's a fisherman, a hunter, a shooter, a skier. He'd much rather be doing that. And there are things that I'd much rather be doing. But we realize that no one is coming to save us. That is up to us. It's up to no one else but us.
All of us.
All of us. And so that starts with me, that starts with Roy, and that starts with all of you. So we're asking you, we're pleading with you, stand up, get involved. I don't know what that looks like for you. Only you can answer that. For us, we started by visiting.
We're doing the show. We then started by also visiting all these different counties, having direct conversations with people. We learned a lot by having direct conversations, and then having conversations with our state legislators, their senators, and House reps, and then realized,
yeah, well,
I could be that person. You could be that person.
We can not only be that person, I think we have to be that person. And I realize we have to be that person because it's like pulling teeth to get these people to respond. We have drafted legislation. We've talked to several legislators who are all talk and no show. And nobody's going to take this bill up on our behalf that we've put together, where we want a fair election certification. If we're going to vote a certain way, we've got to have the ability to verify the results. And by hiding the information behind closed doors up at the Capitol in a storage room is not going to cut it. We have to have the ability to look at the information, hire the competent people to come in and actually certify our elections. Am I right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so that's what we're all about. And like Roy and I have said, we've been to 25 of Utah's 29 counties now. We've talked to, probably 20 county clerks and several board of canvassers. And for those of you that don't know what a board of canvasser is, that is a elected county council person or an elected county commissioner. And the number that they have varies from state to state, county to county. And we thought that if we were going to have a true understanding of what our elections are like here, that we better go visit with them first and foremost. Would you agree?
No, absolutely. And in the process, got to appreciate the work that the county clerks do, and quite honestly, the work that the county commissioners and council members do as well. I mean, it is a labor of love. I believe that most of them are there to help their community. They are elected officials, and they basically are underpaid and overwhelmed.
They really are, and several of the county commissioners, the council and commissioners have said, we can't get people to run for county clerk for that very reason. Not only are they understaffed when it comes to our elections being held, they simply do not have the expertise to handle all the different ways in which our elections are conducted these days.
Well, as importantly, they are the sharp end of the spear with regard to their constituents. They're the ones that are running the election. And when they hear and see that elections are not as secure as they thought they were, independent of the results, they go in and complain to their county clerks and blame them. And it's, quite frankly, not their fault.
It really isn't. But we've often found ourselves saying this, not only to ourselves and county clerks, but others, and that is, they don't know what they don't know. They've not been fully educated as to how the full system actually works. In fact, yesterday was a perfect example of that. We happened to be meeting with deputy clerk, and
this was after you and I signed up to be candidates.
That's right. And we had a short meeting, and they felt that the elections were handled and conducted absolutely fairly, that there was no way to cheat. And I said, really? Are you sure of that? And they said, well, yeah. Can you name one thing in which the elections are wrong and how we are making mistakes? And I said, well, let's start with Eric. And she's like, yeah, well, we have to have some way to keep track. Eric is a electronic registration information center. This is where all of our data for records for people that are going to vote is being kept.
The voter rolls.
Voter rolls. It's kept in New Jersey, by the way, for Utah, from a private company. I said, I said this to the clerk, do you have the ability to access and change Eric? And she said, well, no. And I said, well, can you see a problem there? And she's like, yeah, I can. So just educating our elected officials, they don't know what they don't know. And we've often made the assumption that, and they do, that just everything is hunky-dory and on the up and up, when there's plenty of nefarious activity behind the scenes that they don't even know about.
Well, and then on top of that, they don't know what they don't know, but also there's some things that are beyond their control. And the way to fix those things is to, one, make everything transparent.
Yeah.
And then two, create accountability.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just a mistake. And it doesn't mean that you're going to fire somebody for doing something wrong. An honest mistake is an honest mistake, but they need to have the feedback as well.
Well, I agree. And as a private business owner, wouldn't you want to know if you're doing something wrong and have the ability to, and the tools to fix it?
Exactly. And I was just having that same conversation with my business partner on something we're trying to do in Mexico right now. But it's exactly the same thing. It looks just like doing the election. And
if you mess up, you're held accountable one way or the other. Either you don't get the deal done, or the money doesn't come through. If something in the chain is broken that causes the deal to go south, you want to have the ability and the tools to fix that chink in the armor. So to speak. And that's all we're asking for. We're not laying blame on anyone. What we are doing is blaming the system that is set up. The election code is Utah Title Code 20A. It is 463 pages long. Soon, if this new legislation in 2024 goes through, they're going to add roughly 230 additional pages on top of the 463 pages of the election code. And it also refers to other statutes, all total, making our election code roughly 700 pages long. I can promise you this, our election officials, by and large, have not read that document. They don't even know what it says. And if they do know what it says, they'll often say, well, it's contradictory because it says one thing in one part and totally the opposite in another. The whole thing needs to be revamped. We're not asking for that right now. We're simply asking for...
But we've actually had some state officials say, it does need to be rewritten.
It really does. And so I think there's the jury's still out with a lot of these people as to whether there's even a problem with our elections, but they're slowly getting enlightened to the fact, and it's going to take repeated and consistent, persistent pressure
from everybody.
Not two guys,
not just two guys, but everybody,
yeah.
All our listeners, and everybody, all citizens.
Yeah, they need to be held accountable like we are in our everyday lives. So if we can't get our elections right, we're kind of pissing in the wind as far as trying to fix all the other problems when we don't have the right people in office to do it. So that's what we're all about. And in a nutshell, that's the short version. I'm really intrigued by, after one day, Roy, of opening it up for candidates to register to run, that there's already been a lot of jockeying for position, and as far as people switching race, which race they want to enter based on what someone else does. What have you seen?
Well, obviously we've all heard that Mitt Romney is not going to run again for his seat, so that leaves it open. There have been some people that have announced early, a gentleman by the name of Trent Staggs, who's a mayor in
Riverton,
the Riverton mayor. You and I have spoken with him a few times. And then recently, John Curtis announced that he's switching from running for House of Representatives.
In the 3rd Congressional District.
In the 3rd Congressional District, and he's going to run against Trent. And
a plethora of other people.
And a plethora of other people as well for that seat.
I was surprised to see several people jump in that we had no idea were coming in, like Orrin Hatch's son jumped in the race.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he jumped into
where?
Into the Senate race.
Romney seat.
For Romney's seat. And a couple others that I haven't heard of. The rumor mill has it that Chris Herrod is going to enter the 3rd Congressional seat run again this time.
Okay.
He lost in the primary to Curtis last time.
Yeah.
And then also State Senator Kennedy from Alpine, Utah County, has also indicated that he might enter the...
He hasn't announced yet.
He's not officially announced, but he has the exploratory committee thing going on, which usually means I'm going to enter.
You can't explore for too many days.
Yeah.
He's got to sign up. When is it? When is the closing date?
The closing is next Monday, 5 p.m. So the 8th at 5 p.m. And he's got to go up to the Capitol because it's a statewide race.
And by the way, for anybody out there listening, to the extent that you want to run, it costs you about $100 to put your name in. It takes 20 minutes to fill out a few forms. You put it in there and you're in, and you can start. So there are many, many seats that are open. Obviously, House seats in your neighborhood. You can contact us. We can explain, which district you're in, or there's county commissioners in Salt Lake County and every other county as well that are open.
I think the mayor's race, the county mayor's race, is also
the county mayor's
coming up
race
this
is
year.
open. school boards. We need people who are very qualified for school boards to put their hat in the ring. I mean, don't be shy. I was told by my children that I should not run for the school board because I don't know anything about teaching, and I said, "Really? Give me a break."
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, maybe that's not your cup of tea, but if you feel like it, why not? It's really not that big a deal. Now, if you're serious about it, there is a fairly significant time commitment. I can attest to that. I ran for House District 41 2 years ago, and I spent a lot of time. And the amount of money that you spend is really up to you, but a lot of it can just be grassroots. If you're willing to get out, knock on doors, talk to people, have town hall meetings, cottage meetings, whatever, you can go that route. You can try to win at convention. Personally, I'm not convinced that convention is fully legitimate, especially when they don't vote by paper ballot. Now, if it's a county-wide ballot, they will run on paper only, hand counted right in front of you. But if you enter a bigger race that crosses county lines or is a statewide race, you're going to end up voting on your phone. You're going to end up voting with a clicker where you don't know where that goes. So I don't like that at all. And I also don't like the fact that people can circumvent the convention altogether by getting signatures. And so we need to do away with Senate Bill 54 if we're going to have convention.
Right, but I'm not going out to get signatures. I'm going actually through the convention, and I think you are as well, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to get signatures. I'm going to take my chances at convention and see where the cards fall.
And all that'll do is that'll put us into the primary. Either we are the Republican candidate, or there might be another one there, in which case then who got in by signatures, in which case then we'll have to run against them.
That's right. If you get enough votes at
convention,
you have to get 40% of the vote to move on. But if you get 60%, you move on alone unless someone got signatures.
Unless somebody got signatures.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. Pick something, whether it's supporting a candidate, getting involved with a group, such as the one that we're going to announce here in just a few minutes, and which is the Utah Latino Republican Group. We have Gabby Pina with us today, and I think she's probably about ready to get queued up here, and we'd like to bring her in and talk to her a little bit and have her enlighten us as to what it's like to come from a communist country and get set up here and what the differences are and so on and so forth. So let's invite Gabby in. Hi, Gabby, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
How are you doing today?
Doing great, thank you. How about you?
Doing very good, thank you. We really, really appreciate you coming on with us. I know that there's a lot of people very interested to hear what it's like coming from a country, and in Cuba's case, a communist country. Why don't you just give us a little personal background about you? Who are you, and what's going on with you in your life?
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to be here with you all today, and thank you so much for the opportunity to have me here. So a little bit about my background. I was born in Cuba in 1997. I left when I was 18 years old. The only way we found to leave Cuba was through a Spanish citizenship. So my great-grandparents were Spaniards from Spain. And once we got our Spanish citizenship and our passports, we were able to fly to Spain and then come to the United States, which was our main goal. And yeah, now I'm here and just getting involved in politics and trying to spread the word about communism.
And when you first moved to the United States, how many siblings do you have, or any, and where did you move to first when you came here?
Okay, so I have only one sister, and
Mm-hmm.
we moved to Miami, Florida, when we
Mm-hmm.
first came to the United States.
And
After that,
you came here with your parents, right? Both mom and dad?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
We always try to find a way to live all together as a family and
Mm-hmm.
get here in a legal way. And as I said, the only way we found was becoming Spanish citizens and then going to Spain first, then United States.
So your grandparents were Spaniards that moved to Cuba. When did they get to Cuba?
It was actually my great grandparents. They went to Cuba very early. I'm not sure of the year, but way before the revolution, before
Mm-hmm.
communism. And they were basically escaping the regime of Franco
I see.
in Spain and civil wars and everything that was going on in Europe at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And well, further on, we found out that they were Spanish, and that's how we decided to start all the process.
So when they moved to Cuba, did they start businesses? I mean, and were they business owners or anything like that? How were they making a living when the revolution, when Fidel Castro um, took over Cuba?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know much about my great grandparents. I didn't know them, and I didn't have much connection with my grandfather, that was their son. But
Mm-hmm.
I do know that many Spanish people that came to Cuba at that time, they had big businesses, they were very successful people, and they had money. So they literally left Europe to come to Cuba because it was in a good peak, right? It was like very successful country.
Mm-hmm. And so they kind of jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. If you're leaving Spain during the Spanish Civil War, um, and then you go to Cuba and everything looks great, but then it goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to them.
I'm interested to know, Gabby, if prior to using the Spanish route, did you try to directly come to the US from Cuba, and how did that go?
There was no way for us to come here legally. We
They
could
just
have gotten a raft, built up a raft, and come here illegally. But that was risky, very dangerous, and that was illegal. We were always trying to find a safe way that we could all come together as a family legally, right? But with a Cuban passport, we were not allowed to come to the United States. It's not like most countries in South America or anywhere in the world where they can use their passport, their nationality passport, and just ask for a tourist visa or go anywhere in the world, right? They're free to go wherever they want to. As Cubans with with a Cuban passport, we don't really have a chance to just choose where we want to go and do it freely
But you could go to Spain. How
with
I
a
mean,
Spanish passport.
so first what you had to do was apply for a Spanish passport from Cuba. Then once you got that passport, then you could travel.
Yes, it took us many years to become Spanish citizens. First my mom, then my sister and I, then my dad. Then we were able to travel to Spain with a Spanish passport as Spanish people, not as Cubans.
I see.
Yeah. And then from Spain, we came to the United States because at that time, in 2016, there was a law called the dry feet, wet feet law. I don't know if you've heard about it. But
Nope.
basically, any Cuban could come to the United States, and as long as they were caught with dry feet in American land, they could stay legally. So
Okay.
that's how we came from Spain to United States with a Spanish passport in a plane very easily. Once we got to the American soil in the airport, we said, look, we came as Spanish, but we're Cubans too, and we want the dry feet, wet feet law. So that's
Okay.
how we stay here. And about 6 months later, that law was taken away by Obama.
Okay.
So now it's even harder. We made it just in time.
Well, that's good. I
That's
mean,
interesting.
yeah,
So you as a family you settled in Florida. Was it around Miami, or
Yes, Miami.
and did you go to school there, or did you attend university, or what did you guys start doing right away?
Yeah,
Did you have
so
other family members there as well? I mean, because I know there's a very large Cuban population in South Florida.
Yeah, we had some cousins that we had never met and an uncle that we had actually met once or twice, but not really very close family. But we went there because that's where all the Cubans were, and we always heard good things about Miami and that it was a good place to start for us. We got there in 2016, as I said, and I spent 2 years studying English in just like a community college in Miami
Hmm.
and working. And after that, in 2018, I started my studies at BYU, Idaho, in the university.
Hmm.
So I studied international relations and I graduated in 2020 with my bachelor's.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so you then moved down here to Salt Lake or to Utah.
Yes, so once I graduated from BYU, Idaho, I moved to Houston, Texas to work.
Hmm.
I worked as a paralegal for immigration lawyers. And from there, my husband got accepted into med school here in Utah, so we moved again. Now we live here.
Where's your parents living now and your sister?
They're in Florida still.
What did they end up doing? Were they able to get work? Were they able to build their
So
life?
for my parents, it's hard to study a career here. They are very not very old, but they're older. They don't manage the language very well, so they just try to do any job that they can find. They're
Uh-huh.
doing well for now, and they have learned. My mother actually spoke English as well as my dad in Cuba, but not as well, not very fluently, right?
Hmm.
So it's a little harder for other people to start from zero. But my sister and I have been able to study, to go to school, and start our careers from zero here.
Very nice.
Mhm.
So is your sister older or younger than you?
She's younger. She's
Yeah.
starting to be a teacher.
Ah, nice. So obviously you went through high school, in Cuba. Um, for me, I've worked most of my career outside the United States, and I'm currently, doing things in Mexico. And for me, I wish that every American could have spent some time outside the United States, because I think you get a much different perspective of this country by being able to compare one country against another. So, what did you see as the biggest things that are different here in the United States versus where you came from in Cuba?
Do you mean in terms of education only or in general?
Well, what was life like in Cuba? What was daily life like there? I mean, did you have all the provisions you needed? Were you able to travel within the country freely? What were the freedoms or restrictions like there for you?
Okay. In Cuba, almost everything is illegal. Anything, any business is illegal. So even buying cow meat, red meat, buying lobster, buying milk, you need to get it in the black markets. Everything is illegal. If you want to start your own business, you need to be careful because you can go to jail for that. And even killing your own cow, for example, my cousins, they are farmers. If they have a cow and they kill it and the neighbors know, they're going to tell it to the police and they're going to go to prison.
Really?
Yes. So my life in Cuba was always two phases, one phase for the school and one phase for home. At home, my parents always talked to me about what the world outside could be like. My mom had actually been out of Cuba long time ago when she was young for a few days, and she saw what the world was like. She was in Germany. And my dad worked in tourism in Cuba in a hotel. So he got along with a lot of tourists and he heard what the world was like. So my parents actually had another knowledge and they taught me and my sister. They always taught us that we needed to find a way to get out of Cuba and to be free because we were not free in Cuba. There is no freedom of speech, there is no freedom of religion, there is no freedom to build a business, to study what you want. They force you to study whatever they want you to study or to work whatever they want you to work. They can put you in prison just like this if they want to. So At home, we had this knowledge, we knew the truth, but when we went to school, we had to say different things. We had to act like we were brainwashed, which actually worked in some way, because after you go to school for such a long time, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., and they're brainwashing you and brainwashing you, even if your parents are teaching you at home, it's so hard to erase everything you've been taught at school. There is a moment where you get confused about what is true and what isn't. What if my parents aren't completely right? What if what the school is teaching me is actually the truth? So it's a lot of confusion and misinformation. At school, they teach you terrible things about America, about the United States. Since you're little, they tell you that Americans are going to come to Cuba and start a war and kill everybody. Even at school, they make you do military preparation to defend yourself against Americans. But then when I went home and my parents bought movies that they pirated or something, we would see the reality about America in the movies. We would see that Americans were so good during World War II. They helped finish World War II, and they distributed food and medicines and helped rebuild Europe after World War II. We are not taught this in Cuba. We are not taught the real part of history. All of this I have learned through movies illegally in Cuba, and after leaving Cuba. I have learned so much that I didn't know my whole life.
So obviously, you had friends in school and so on. Could you actually confide in your friends that your parents were teaching these types of things to you, or were other parents teaching their children these things?
It was very risky to talk about anything that my parents told us at home. I actually had a friend that her parents were from the military in Cuba. They had a lot of benefits because they were part of the military. She knew every place in Cuba. She went to hotels, to pools, to nice vacations because of the military. She knew places that I didn't know. So because she was so privileged, I was scared of sharing with her, for example. And as we grew older and I started to realize things, I actually tried bringing up the topic a few times with her, but it was risky. She would be always like trying not to talk about it or arguing, so.
And she's still there.
She's still there. She's still defending the regime.
So just as we understand communism to be, there was essentially no middle class. You were either part of the elite ruling class or you were very poor.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a better living, you have to do illegal stuff. You have to buy in the black market, like my parents. We looked like we had a little bit more money, but it's just because my parents used to buy stuff in the black market. My parents worked in tourism, in hotels, in restaurants, where they deal with tourists. They got dollars in tips. So we had a better living, but it was all illegal, and nobody could know about it.
Was it actually illegal to take tips in dollars?
No. Basically, all the tips that you got, you had to return to the owners of the business where you worked.
Wow.
Which there were no private business, by the way. Everything is controlled by the regime.
So, I mean, it's just kind of, it's amazing how we as Americans have just taken so much for granted here. Our freedoms and the work that we choose and places that we go and the things that we do. And we don't realize, really, because we've not experienced it firsthand, what life is like in other places, and that it could be like that here if we don't watch what our government is doing, if we're not vigilant and stand up for what we know to be right, for our freedoms.
Yeah, that's correct. And I am very sad because I know a lot of Americans, especially young Americans, that they hate being Americans. If anything is brought up to conversation is, oh yeah, of course, because we're in America. Oh yeah, too bad we're in America. It's always Americans. I don't want to live here. I don't. Who wants to be in America? Those are the kind of comments that make me feel so sad, because after all I've been through to get here, and not just me, I came in a plane super easily. Yes, I had to wait a lot, but I came in a plane. There is people that literally risk their lives escaping the regime to get here, and they're so thankful for the freedoms that we have here. Not even in Spain, we have all the freedoms that we have here, or the liberties to just go out and dream and work hard and actually be able to achieve your dreams. Anything you want to be, anything you want to have, you can do it here in America. And Americans, especially young people, as I said, they're not proud of that. I think I am more proud of being an American than some other young Americans that were born here. It's just crazy. And even children of Latinos, for example, or third generation Latinos, they were born here in America, and they feel prouder to be Latinos or to be Asian or whatever nationality their parents or grandparents were than being in America. Why? Why can't they just say, I am an American. I was born in America. I am an American, and I'm going to be proud of it, and I'm going to defend my country. Yes, I respect my ancestors. I want to learn about my past culture, which is part of myself, but I am going to be proud of being an American, right?
Well, boy, Gabby, I think you would make a great teacher, and I wish you were a teacher in our high schools and junior highs so you could start educating our young people to actually hear the truth about what other countries are like, how great we have it here. And all we need to do is look at the news and see all the people coming in to this country. That's the best indicator to me that we live in a great place, because so many people are still trying to get in. And I think we've just, my generation has failed our kids in so many ways by not instilling in them the real truth and appreciation for how good we do have it here. Gabby, I'm going to give out the phone lines again, and I think we're going to go ahead and start opening up the phone lines for calls. The call-in number here, we're talking with Gabby Pina. She escaped Cuba and is now in America and appreciates it very much. The call-in line is 385-899-2134. It's 385-899-2134. Please call in and talk with Gabby, ask any questions of Gabby, Roy, or myself. We'd love to hear from you. So Gabby, while we're waiting for calls to come in, how did you get hooked in with the Utah Latino Republican group?
Where I've been trying to find a way to get involved in politics for the longest time. Emailing, reaching out to people, nobody ever got back to me. When I got here to Utah, I thought Utah was so red, so Republican, so conservative. Everybody knew what was, right, correct. But I started seeing so many wrong things here in the States. For example, we have this group or organization that's called the Party for Liberation and Socialism. And they're actually in Salt Lake City. They send people to Cuba every year, young people, from Utah to Cuba. And they brainwash them over there. Then they come back here and they give out conferences about socialism, Marxism, communism, all of that. So when I found all of this, and I started worrying about it, because I really like Utah. This has been my favorite state, and I've been to many states. And I think it's great. The community, the society here is so calm, so nice. But I don't want it to go to trash, like California, like New York. So I reached out to Carlos Moreno. I don't know if you know who he is.
We do. In fact, okay. He just announced that he's running for county mayor.
Yes. Yeah. So he's a political activist here in Utah. And he has been the only one that actually got back to me and started to invite me to meetings, to political activities. That's how I got involved. And as a group of people, we have created the organization Utah Latino Republicans, where we have Latinos here in Utah that are conservative and that have Republican values. And that's basically it. We're trying to educate people to be an example to show that we Latinos are conservative. Those are our values. We're not liberals. And yeah, just trying to get the word out.
You know, I hear so many people say that Latinos are misled when they first come here, and that they've got to join the Democrat Party, when really, by and large, Latinos are conservative Republican people.
That's true. I think that ignorance is a great weapon that they use a lot in our countries in South America, Central America. For example, in Cuba, you don't have any political education whatsoever. You don't know anything about politics. When I came out of Cuba and I went to Spain, that's when I started learning about what the different political ideologies were, how the elections worked a little bit, you know. And then here in the United States, of course, I learned more. But many people that come through the border, they're like me. They don't know anything. They don't know anything better. They just hear what they say. Oh, Biden is helping you. Biden is going to give you papers. Biden is going to, you know, Donald Trump is bad. Yes, Donald Trump is bad. Donald Trump is racist. He doesn't want you here. So, of course, you're going to vote for Biden, right? It's ignorance. That's why education is so important. Many young people here in America, they don't know politics either, and they don't care about it. Whenever I try to bring up the topic, they don't care. They don't know about it, and they were born here in the United States.
Well, that's true, and they're getting misinformation in the school system as well. And also, a lot of the parents are ignorant, and they're doing their kids a disservice by not talking with them about this country, what it was founded on, the Constitution of the United States, and what it really means, and how great we do have it here, and that God truly blesses this country, and that you have to fight to keep it, and you have to stand up.
So Gabby, I'm curious. This socialist group that you're talking about, have you ever engaged with the people there and say, look, I'm from Cuba. I could tell you, have you ever engaged with these people?
I've been looking for the opportunity to do that. I follow them on Instagram, and I'm just looking for the right moment for them to do another conference about Cuba, just to show up there and see, you know, what's going to happen. But right now, they're very focused on Palestine. They're the ones doing the big protest in Salt Lake about Palestine.
Right.
They're focusing on that right now. I am waiting for the right moment just to be there.
Yeah, actually, I want to be there too. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
If you need support, give us a call, and I'll definitely join you, and we'll send out word to get others down there.
But I think the right thing is if there's some way, like a conference on Cuba, and then say, hey, I'm from Cuba, I can actually speak about it, and that would be really fun.
It would be fun, and I think a lot of people would have their eyes opened.
Yeah.
Because they're misled.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure whether she would get more than a sentence or she would get pulled off the stage. But
yeah,
you and I would be there to protect her, to make sure she got stayed on the stage.
We will protect you, and we know others that can come help protect. So we're part of other organizations that do a lot of protecting. So
yeah, you never know with these people.
I'd like to give out the phone number again. We're looking for call-ins to speak with Gabby Pina, who is with the Utah Latino Republicans. And I think our Mr. Oz, man behind the curtain, is going to pop up their Facebook page on our screen so everybody can see it. But the call-in number is 385-899-2134. You're missing a great opportunity to talk with a young lady that's escaped communism from Cuba. We actually got a call. I think we'll go ahead and patch that call through, Dwayne. Oh, he says he said it's going to take a minute. So we do have a couple of callers on the line.
Give me a
Please
minute. I'll pop them in. Okay.
go ahead and pop them in, Dwayne.
Hang on. Here we go. I'm gonna mute for a second so I can talk to them. I'll be right back.
All right. So while he's getting all that in order, please call in, get in the queue, 385-899-2134. We're talking with Gabby Pina today, who is with the Utah Latino Republicans. And you are listening to KMMU.org, also known as Main Street Media, Utah. And you can find us at www.mainstreetmediautah.com or kmmu.org. Go to the homepage and click on Listen Live, and you'll be able to actually see us.
Hi, guys.
Hi, who are we speaking with?
Hang on. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
We're ready. We're ready, Dwayne. Dwayne.
I have Anya on the line.
Hi, Anya. How are you today?
Some questions. Hang on. Go ahead, Anya.
Hey there, Dad. How's it going? I'm doing good. I'm doing really well. I just got home from visiting with the boys, and I'm ready to ask you some questions.
Well, ask us and Gabby whatever's on your mind.
Well, my curiosity when tuning into the show, I've caught the bits and pieces that I can squeeze in. And I just want your audience to have a better understanding of your background and Roy's background, kind of whether that be your career background, family background, that's up for you to interpret that question. But how you initially got interested in becoming more active within, I guess, the political.
Do you want to go first on that one?
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll keep it short. And it's very much like Gabby's story in that we recognize.
Hi, Gabby.
Hi.
Want to acknowledge you as well. I didn't have you a visitor on the show, but go on, Dad.
This is my daughter, obviously. She just called me Dad. So, Anya,
Yeah, I can't call him Steve.
Yeah. So I got interested because I see this country failing. I see that it's changed so much from when I was growing up and was a young man. And I realize with all the changes taking place and the attitudes of so many people, not just young people, but old people, that they don't appreciate what they have here. And I can see us losing it right before my very eyes. And if I can do anything of importance in this life, it would be to leave a legacy of standing up for what is right in this country and doing everything within my power to save a country that was literally ordained by God. We don't know how good we have it in this country. And there are those people out there that want to steal that from us, and they are in the process of doing it. But so many of us are blind to that. And it's infuriating, it's frustrating that we're trying to shake people and wake them up, but they won't listen. So, I mean, I could go on for a long time. I won't.
Right.
Give Roy the opportunity, and then we'll get back to Gabby.
Yes. So.
Well, I know you're my dad, and to comment on that, and I know you're not one to ever sit on your arse. Let's just put it like that.
I'm sitting on my arse right now, but I'm trying to do something
but
while
you're
sitting
still
on my
doing
arse.
something, Dad. You're always doing something, and I'm incredibly proud of you. So thank you for that insight. I'd love to hear what Roy has to say as well.
Thank you, sweetie.
Sure. I'm not from Utah. I grew up in New Jersey, and I moved here to go to the university and to ski. And I studied engineering and then a graduate degree in finance. And then I moved back east again to work in finance. And I was able to work in Spain, spent time in Madrid. I've worked
my dream.
in different places like in Europe and Latin America. And it's from that I actually learned a lot about our country and was able to begin to appreciate it and realize what we had here. And like Steve said, I see changes happening in this country that I would only see in, for example, Venezuela when I worked there, or in Mexico.
Okay.
And it became alarming, and I said, I've got to do something about it. And that's how I got involved, and that's actually how I met Steve. So,
Yeah, we met through this process.
That's impressive.
My wife Lori was a precinct chair, and Roy is the legislative chair up in our area. And it was through our involvement that we got thrown together, the odd couple, so to speak, and we're going balls out. What can I say? Balls out, man.
Okay, well,
and we
I
thought that
enjoyed that answer, and I think that it is valuable for your audience to know as well. So thank you so much for that answer.
Anya, you have a question for Gabby?
I don't. I didn't prepare. But Gabby, what has you? I mean, you're obviously spending your time. Our time is precious. You're spending your time on this show. What has you as passionate as you are to be doing what you're doing right now?
Thank you so much.
Of course.
So, Gabby, I got a question. I got a question for you. I think it's along the lines of what she just.
Anya, I have another caller. Thank you very much for calling.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it, you guys. We'll tune into the rest of the show.
Thank you for calling, Anya.
Bye. Call us again.
Go ahead, Roy.
No, with Gabby, you see, I'm wondering, is there a way to create some sort of like a lecture series where you go to different schools? Because we do have here, we're supposed to have in our high school education, grade and in our middle school education, I think something called social studies, where you learn about our government, our history, other governments, etc. And I'm wondering if you could create something where you and other people like you that come from other countries could go and basically give a little talk about what it's like over like just what you started with on this show.
You could be the Charlie Kirk for the Hispanic community. You know who Charlie Kirk is?
Yeah.
He goes on to college campuses and he's built a great organization. You could be the Charlie Kirk of for the Latino groups.
I would love to. I just haven't had an opportunity, but I just don't know how to get into that,
Well,
I would love to know someone that can help me.
I think just coming on a show like this, getting your name out there, being willing to stand up, that's where you start. And if you have a willingness, it will happen.
But I'm just wondering, can we find a way to, create this opening? I bet I find her story fascinating.
It's compelling, yes.
And I wish that I could get my kids to listen to her story.
We can start by having you come over to my house. We get all of our kids together, and you can start right there. And then they can bring their friends, and then we can grow it from that. And I know a lot of people that have kids from early teens to early 20s that need to hear this story.
But your message, what you're saying, I think has much more credibility coming from you
than a couple of old white farts sitting on their arse in front of a TV screen.
Exactly.
And so I think that's a great idea, Roy. Let's do that.
Yeah,
Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, for sure.
We can start right here. We can start right here in my living room, and we'll get 20 people, and we can just have a conversation. And I think that's a great way to start.
Hey, Steve, I got somebody on the line that might be interested in joining you in your living room. This is Martin, and I'll bet he's got some questions for Gabby. Here you go.
I bet he does too. How you doing, Martin? Come on in.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing today?
It's a good day.
Hey, Martin, before you ask your questions of Gabby, why don't you explain your background? Because I think you two share some similarities here, and I think that would be helpful before you start with your questions for Gabby.
Well, and I will also interject, Martin, that Martin is the chairperson for the Utah Latino Republican group. He's the one that I knew that I actually became acquainted with Gabby to the extent that I have. So they're both part of the same organization. And Martin, why don't you give out any information that you have relevant to your group, how they can get a hold of you, and how they could get involved, and then make any comments that you'd like.
Absolutely. So so to get involved, come join us up on Facebook. We got 2 Facebook pages, one in English and one in Spanish. All right. And so if you go to Facebook, Utah Latino Republicans, that's our English page. Get on there. We also have a Spanish page, Utah Latino Republicans Latinos Republicanos de Utah. And if you want, and we have some contact information up there. Feel free to email or send a message out, and that way you can contact us.
We've got your webpage up, your Facebook page up on the screen right now, Martin.
Yeah. Is that the Spanish or the English version? I know that you have 2.
This is the English version.
We have. Okay. Yeah. So please feel free to follow and send out messages. All right. And then
we need to build this coalition, Martin, because we've got some really important elections coming up. We've got Carlos, for example, is running. We need to build a coalition not only of people, but we need to help fund his campaign because these things aren't cheap. And we need the Latino community here as part of our effort to save this nation, because that's what we're really all doing this for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, to Carlos Moreno, he's running for the Salt Lake County Council. He's going to be officially filing and announcing tomorrow.
Do you know, Martin? Do you know which seat he's going for?
I believe he'll be going for District 4.
So I had heard, Martin, that he was going for the at-large, the Bradley at-large seat. Is that not correct?
That was the original plan. There were some members of the community that reached out specifically to Carlos, and there's a few people that asked him to take the seat. I can't give everything out right now. I'm not at liberty, but tomorrow there'll be a more complete story. The short story is there were some people that asked him to run, and after a lot of consideration and the support he had, he decided that that's where he would best be able to serve us.
Okay. So. Well, could you give us a little of your background and then maybe talk about how you and Gabby came together, and tell us a little bit about that connection?
Sure. My background, I'm a bit of an anomaly. I'm a Bolivian born to an Argentine mother and American father. I spent my very early years in Argentina, but I also visited or lived in other countries such as Argentina, Peru, Bolivia, passing through Ecuador and Uruguay, and then spent most of my life obviously in the United States. And then and having and also understanding what it feels like to be within a household where certain ideologies don't really allow a lot of freedom. So when I decided that I wanted to be a Latter-day Saint, my biological father asked me to leave the house. So I returned back to Argentina to my grandmother's home. And that's where probably I became politically aware of what was going on around me.
Well, that's a little harsh.
In 2000, when I was back in Argentina, I was beginning to settle down, and I was seeing a lot of things at the time. The economy was getting ready to was crumbling around us. There was rioting in the streets, and then I was down in Buenos Aires on a school trip, and I remember commenting how clean and neat everything was, how the tile was really spotless, and the windows were immaculate. And our tour guide commented that they were in that way because they had to be replaced because the previous week the rioters tried to enter the Congressional Hall, and these were people that were of the left-leaning persuasion and the desperate. When I got back home to my grandmother, she said, she basically sat down and told me that things were not working out, and that I'd be returning to the United States after my birthday. And then when I returned to the United States, I literally got off the plane and reported straight to military school. So I graduated from military high school and military college. I hold a bachelor's in law enforcement administration and political science and government, and I have a master's in public administration.
Well, I know that you're very educated. I know that, I've spent a great deal of time with you. I appreciate your involvement in what's going on here in this state. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Utah Republicans group Latino Republicans group started, how you got connected with Gabby, and tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So here in Utah, I was involved. I was a volunteer for a few campaigns, knocking doors, passing out flyers, things like that, and then I got to know Carlos Moreno through those activities a few years ago. I got to know him, hear his story, started working with him, and we started working together. We did some nonprofit work together and some other, and I helped him as he set up events. And then through him, I got to, I learned that they were reorganizing Utah Latino Republicans. The previous organization needed some, was not doing what it needed to do, and then so I was asked to come in and help be part of the reform reorganization of Utah Latino Republicans.
When was that?
We were preparing to say again.
When was that? When did all this take place?
This took place in the past few months. I'd say it would been several months. We saw a need that here in Utah, the Hispanic population is roughly 20%, between 14 and 20%. So 14% of the state population, 20% of Utah County and Salt Lake counties are Hispanic. So that's 1 in 5 people.
That's a significant number. That really is. And growing, I would imagine.
It is growing, and it is growing quite a bit. And in the process, I met Gabriela, and we were working on it together. We've worked on a few events. And
did you meet through Carlos? You said you met through Carlos.
Through Carlos, so Carlos was heavily involved, and Carlos Moreno, he Carlos Moreno has a lot on his plate as he was getting ready to run for office and finding out which office he'd best serve in. I was then asked if I'd be part of the interim committee. So Gabriela and I were part of that group. We were part of the interim leadership, informing Utah Latino Republicans and reorganizing the auxiliary and organizing the elections.
Well, I actually had the opportunity to come down to your elections. That was a very interesting opportunity, and it was remarkable to see such a diverse group of Latinos from so many different countries, from Cuba, Argentina, Brazil, quite a bit of Peruvians were there. In fact, one Peruvian lady got elected to treasurer, I believe. And one of my sons actually married a Peruvian gal, and her parents came over to the United States from Peru. They're delightful people. I love them to death. And the diverse nature of the group, I hope people understand that Latino really is so all-encompassing of South America and even more over to Cuba, that the group itself is very diverse. And it's great to see them coming together to get a larger voice here in Utah.
How many people are part of Latino Republicans? How many members would you say?
How the percentage again?
Yeah, how many people, how many members are there of the Latino Republicans that you say active members?
Active members, we're about 50 right now, and we're preparing to expand. We're talking with individuals in other counties within north towards Ogden, Logan, as far south as Washington and St. George, and seeing getting that ready so we can have more membership.
Gabby, as secretary, what are some of your duties, and how are you guys contacting and reaching out to others in the Latino community?
Well, we usually have our meetings about every week or 2 weeks, more or less. And in those meetings, we always find logistic and everything of how to reach out to people. For example, we are planning right now to find more members or from the Latino community that would like to run for elections, for candidates, or any other thing that, get them involved in politics here in the state. So for this new year, we are organizing a meeting where we're going to introduce ourselves, talk a little bit about the organization, and invite everybody to get more people join the organization.
It's all about list building. Lists. Do you guys have good contact lists of those in the Latino community that you can reach out to with various kinds of media and marketing strategies to get them to start coming to your meetings? What are you doing in that regard?
Well, we have someone who is taking care of social media, and we're just barely starting with it, right? Because we had our elections about 3 months ago. So we've been more than anything, we've been trying to organize ourselves and trying to create a structure in the organization. So now for this new year, we have the goals of bringing more people in. We have this person taking care of social media who is going to be posting videos about ourselves and trying to get the word out about what we believe in and invite people to join us. But we also are going to be having these meetings, and it's basically through word of mouth that we're going to bring more people. That's how the Latino community works more than anything. Just word of mouth, friends of friends, trying to bring them all together to the organization.
That generally is the best way, for sure. How often? You said you meet every 2 weeks or so. Where
Yeah,
do you meet generally? Is there a certain place that you're meeting at?
we usually meet in libraries in Salt Lake City County or um, in what is that? West Valley or West Jordan, all these little cities which are close to Salt Lake.
Okay. When is your next meeting? And so people that are listening may be able to attend that if they'd like.
Well, for our next meeting, we're actually going to be having our welcoming or introducing ourselves event.
Is there a lot of
Gonna
food?
be- Yeah, we're planning to have food for sure.
Is there treats?
Well, then I'm showing up
I
for
like
sure.
treats. Okay.
We're gonna have a lot of food, and it's probably gonna be in the second week of February. We still don't have a date, but we will be posting about it and spreading the word about it.
That sounds really good. I want to invite people to call in. We are speaking with Gabby Pina. She is with the Utah Latino Republicans. Call in and have a chat with us and her. The number is 385 899 2134. Gabby has a very compelling story, and I think more people, especially young people, need to hear it. And I'm going to officially say right now, we are going to set up a initial meeting at my house, and we'll get the word out. Once we figure out a time that's convenient for everyone, we'll come over. We'll have some snacks, and we'll just chat and hear Gabby's story. And then hopefully we can start spreading the word to other little town hall meetings or cottage meetings or whatever you want to call them, and hear Gabby's story. It's very compelling. It's something that we as Americans need to hear more and more of, because we do not appreciate what we have here, and we need to appreciate it more. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. If we don't appreciate it, we will lose it. And I, for one, see it happening before our very eyes. That's why Roy and I have stood up. That's why so many other people have stood up, and we need to do it. So give us a call, 385 899 2134. So, Roy, what else should we ask Gabby when we have her on the phone?
Well, you mentioned the military as being a protected class or privileged class within Cuba. What other parts of the apparatus were considered privilege? That you saw there. I mean,
Just the elite, just the military, people close to someone in the government. They always get cars, they get houses. Anybody who leaves the country and never comes back, the government takes their house and gives it to someone from the military or from the government. So they get a bunch of privileges.
does the government include? I mean, there are some businesses there, right? So you have food stores and things like that. Are the food stores and other businesses like that run by the government itself?
Yes, the stores are run by the government, and we actually have ration cards where we get certain kinds of food every month. It's not free, you have to pay for it, but it's a settled price for everybody. And for example, you can only get, I don't know, 30 eggs or 15 eggs per person a month, things like that. One small piece of bread per person a day. Um, Chicken once a month or once in a long time. And children get milk, but when they turn 7 years old, they put a red line on your name. You don't get milk anymore. You start getting soy yogurt, which is actually very gross.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so no calcium, no vitamins, no protein. It's terrible. And then if
People,
you
are
have
you listening
someone,
to this? Listen to this. It's crazy.
if you have someone in the outside, family member or friend, that is nice enough to you and they give you money, then you can go to these special stores that the government has where everything is priced in US dollars. Your family from the outside puts the money in a card that you can use to buy in these stores. Still very limited options of food and a very limited quantity per person, but you can still have more options, right? If you have the dollars in your car, if you have a family or someone outside. If you have nobody, you have to live with your ration card and just starve.
So if you're part of this, like you're chosen by the government to run a store, say.
And how do you get chosen? I mean, that's, how do you become part of the elite? Is that just random, or do you have to know someone, or what is that? How does it work?
You can enroll in the military. You can work your way up there, marry someone from the military or from the government. That's how it works.
Interesting.
That's like an arranged marriage with the government. And
Yep.
that's not how it's supposed to be. I mean, we really do need everyone to stand up, because there are people like Fidel Castro and others that want the world to be like this. They want to control everything. And
You
if
will own nothing and be happy.
you will own nothing and be happy. That's what the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, is saying. And we need to stand against that. We need people like Gabby that are brave and courageous to stand up to these tyrants that would see it happen here.
So
and everywhere across the planet.
Did you see different rules for the one group of people versus another? I mean, did you actually see that?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Well, so for example, I know from my work in places like Venezuela or in Mexico, the people who are very well off, if they can break laws and not get prosecuted and not and basically get away with it.
That happens in
In extreme cases, they could kill somebody, and it would, basically the charges would be dismissed. There wouldn't be any prosecution.
Yeah, so in Cuba, any law can be broken if they want to. And as there is no respect for laws and there is no morality in people, which is something that Steve was talking about at the beginning. He was talking about the morality, good values in society. Those are all lost in Cuba. So because everybody is trying to survive and just get some money to buy food or to be better in life, they don't care if they have to hurt other people, whatever they have to do. And if they can get something in return for helping someone, even judges or attorneys, anybody, they're going to do it because they're just trying to survive.
How is the Catholic Church? Is there much of a Catholic Church there? Is it allowed by the government for people to attend a Catholic church?
Well, the Catholic or any other church for that matter.
Right now, yes, you can actually go to church and all that. But for the longest time, you were not allowed to be a member of any church or religion if you wanted to keep your job. For example, my grandmother, if she baptized my mother and uncle, she could have lost her job.
I see.
Things like that. We didn't celebrate Christmas. We were not allowed to celebrate Christmas until 1997, when the Pope came to Cuba and talked to Fidel, and then they started being a little bit more opening about it.
It took a visit from the Pope.
Yeah, but can you imagine what's going to happen if you have 40-something years with no religion allowed in a country? What happens? People lose their faith. Only old people still remembers who God is, still remembers the prayers, the faith, everything. But what happens after 2-3 generations of no religion? There's no faith, there's no hope. People don't have a reason why to live to be a better person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a bunch of criminals, bunch of illegal activity happening, people doing, how do you say, not good values things, like they don't have a moral character in their daily life. So they take actions that are not good in order to just survive, like I was saying.
Well, if you have a nihilistic attitude or belief, which is essentially that nothing matters, that there's no consequence for any of our actions, there's no foundation for morality, you've got to have something to base that on, because you're not going to, stay in line, so to speak, if you don't believe that you're going to be held accountable at some level. And having a faith in a creator is that accountability, is that moral foundation that we need to have. And in fact, the founding fathers of this country said this country will not survive unless we remain a moral and religious people. That's what we need to keep the freedoms that we have.
Which is why a regime like the Castro regime needs to get rid of church, any kind of religion, in order to control the people. So when you said their older people had religion, like Christian religion, I'm presuming that you said, I'm assuming that since most people are Latino, that it would be mostly a Catholic religion there that was from 40 years ago. Was there any underground meetings or anything like that? Did they people worship and meet without government permission?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, when Fidel Castro came to power in 1959, also Che Guevara, they killed a bunch of religious people, bunch of priests, and all because they believed in Christ and they didn't want to follow Fidel because they realized that was evil. It was an evil ideology.
Yep.
So they targeted the priests and other religious people. And for the longest time, you were not allowed to preach. You were not allowed to go to church. So many people had to just pray in their houses. This happened also in the Jewish community. I didn't know much about the Jewish community because as soon as Fidel Castro got the power, they found a way to escape. Many of them came to the United States. But when I got here, I started learning a little bit about it. Cubans, Jewish. I didn't know that was a thing. But they talked to me and they told me about their experiences, everything they went through in order just to preach, to believe.
Interesting. I wonder if they, if the Jews that were Cubans during that period of time, basically immigrated to Israel and used that as their escape hatch, because any Jew, I believe, can actually go to Israel.
Probably, but there is a big community of Jewish Cubans in Miami. That's where I learned all of this.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I would not have expected that, but I'm not surprised now in hindsight.
Hey, we're talking with Gabby Pina. She and her family escaped Cuba. Was that about 6 years ago, I think, roughly? And we'd like to give out their Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Utah Latino GOP. Facebook.com/Utah Latino GOP. If you're interested in getting involved with the Utah Latino Republican organization, it's brand new. There's some great people that are in it. I actually joined, Gabby. They said I'm as white as they come. I mean, I literally, I'm not Latino. In fact, I'm Swiss, but they said I could join. They said that, they said that I could vote, but I couldn't take office, and that's fine. So please get a hold of them. You can look at their Facebook page again, facebook.com/Utah Latino GOP. And please give us a call at 385-899-2134. We'd be interested in talking with you, hearing what's on your mind. Ask us or Gabby any questions that you care to. And is there any other way, Gabby, that they can get a hold of you? Can they call in? Can they email? How else might they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can call. My phone number is 786-443-3162.
Okay, give it again. One more time.
786-443-3162.
That's excellent. So that we're speaking with Gabby Pino. Give us a call, 385-899-2134. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to start setting up some little town hall or cottage meetings for our youth. And the first one's going to be here at my house, Roy.
Okay, there you go.
And Gabby, you've committed to doing that, right?
She's the speaker.
Yeah.
You will be the speaker. I'll speak too, and we'll all speak, and it'll really be more of let's just say, a conversation, because our youth need to hear it, and a lot of our older people need to hear this too. And when we have willing people like you that have such a compelling story, they're forced to listen. And it's not just, like Roy said, a couple of old white geezers sitting on their arse trying to tell them something. So
obviously there's nothing like election integrity in Cuba.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about election integrity in Cuba. Roy and
there are no elections in Cuba.
Yeah, that's true. They did away with those quite a while ago.
And we only have one political party.
Yeah. And they get to decide who runs too, right?
That's just like China.
Yeah.
You have the Chinese Communist Party, and you have, what is the political party called in Cuba?
The CCP, so Cuban Communist Party.
Oh, nice. So we have a joke here. We say there's only one political party. This is not completely true, but we call it the Uniparty. But it's kind of like,
it's kind of true.
Rhinos plus Democrats.
And they're usually bad. If it's Uniparty, it's bad.
Yep.
If they're genuine Democrats or Republicans, it's good. And there's not.
Actually, that's true.
I mean, in Utah, Gabby, my beef is with the Republican that run the state, because the Democratic Party is so small here and has such little control that our real struggle is with the rhinos, that we call them rhinos, Republican in name only. And they want to control what we do. And the actual Republicans are silenced.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to continue to speak up.
I've learned that in a very short time. Just talking to people.
It's pretty obvious.
They call themselves Republicans, but then when you ask a simple question, they don't have an answer. They change their answers whenever they want. So it's people like this that you cannot trust.
That's right. And they try to shame the people that have real conservative values. The ones that really want to speak the truth are told that they're conspiracy theorists or they're ruining the democracy. They say democracy when really it's a republic, but we're ruining the democracy. They go out of their way to put out ads and propaganda that convince us that they're doing everything right, when totally the opposite is true. So how much different is that than a communist regime? I mean, it's starting that way, isn't it?
Yeah, America is going down that way, because when you start trying to silence people, when you start changing your political values to another party just to win and for your personal gain, that's just awful. That's what happens in communism. Is the money that matters, is the fame, or or just having a high charge in politics. That's what communists do in Cuba. But we need people that really commit themselves to the Republican values, that can really defend and stand for the Republican community, the Republican people, and that you can trust.
Yeah, and it's hard to know who to trust, because they all speak with forked tongues, and it's hard to decipher oftentimes who is telling the truth.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Roy and I are fighting here is the lack of transparency, particularly with our elections. They won't show the data, and they'll tell you, well, show us where we're cheating. We'll say, well, we can't, because you're keeping all the data and information from us. that in itself is a huge red flag that there's cheating going on. If there's no cheating, you're transparent with your information. Once you start hiding everything and not allowing candidates or the public to see the data, there's no way to break through that tight nut, if you will, to actually show the proof of the fraud that's going on here. And it's happening and it's prevalent. And you mentioned people changing political parties. I can think of one candidate right now that did that to change from a Democrat to a Republican to get elected to high federal office in
Are you
this state.
saying like House District 3?
I'm saying that it might have been a person that is currently the congressman of House District 3 without naming names, that he may have actually decided this week to run for the Senate, but I'm not saying who it is. Anyway, his initials are JC. But other than that, I will not divulge who that person is. By the way, I'm not suicidal. I want to throw that in. And I drive safely and all that stuff. Anyway, whatever. This has been fascinating. Are you able to stay on for a while and just keep chatting with us?
I can stay for another 20 minutes.
Okay, well, that's about the time we have left. I want to invite again people to call in, and we understand that we're a relatively new show and it's going to take a little time to get the audience. So if you're nervous, don't be nervous, just call in and talk to us. 385-899-2134. We are talking with Gabby Pina. She is a former Cuban, now an American, and she is taking a stand. And she's setting a good example for what we should all be doing right now. And so many of us aren't. We're sitting by, we're expecting others to do it for us. Guess what? Nobody's coming to our rescue, Roy.
No, that's
They're
true.
not.
I'm just thinking about
They're not coming to our
other
rescue.
things. I would say that it would be good if Gabby could speak at both Democrat and Republican events and share her story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because this is a nonpartisan issue. I don't think
so are elections.
Yeah,
It's
but I
nonpartisan.
don't think I'd be surprised if the Democrats would allow her, give her time. It would be interesting to see that.
I'm going to challenge Roy on that, Gabby, and I'm going to say I bet the Democrats are more likely to do it because the problem here in Utah is the Republicans.
You might be right.
And so I think the Democrats in Utah, particularly because it's such a heavily red state, supposedly, certainly controlled by so-called Republicans, I think the Democrats want to hear it and they need to hear it. That's what I'm saying. We should have a bet on this.
We'll talk about it offline.
How about a steak?
Yeah.
The best steak we ever had, at least it was in Roosevelt, Utah. They bring it to you raw and they give you a stone.
A salt plate.
A salt
stone.
plate. Oh, man.
That's hot.
I want to go over there just to have that steak. It's like 2 hours away, though.
It was almost as good as the steak that I had in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Buenos Aires knows how to do steak.
That's one day we're going to do a show, Gabby, about just that. We've traveled to 25 of Utah's 29 counties, and we love steakhouses and we love ice cream parlors. And I won't mention that Roy goes to bed at about 6:30 every night. Well, no, it's a little later than that. On the flip side, he gets up at like 4 a.m. So, but anyway, it's very interesting. Please give us a call, 385-899-2134. If you have a question for Gabby, Roy, or Steve, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call. We want to hear from you.
So, Gabby, have you ever read books like Animal Farm? Have you ever heard of that book? Do you know?
I have, yes, but it was prohibited in Cuba, so I didn't know about it.
For obvious reasons, but did you read it when you were here?
Yes, being here in the United States, yes.
And,
It's exactly what happens in Cuba.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it
Same
coming
as in
here?
1984, the same thing.
1984, yeah.
Is it coming here, Gabby?
Is it coming here? For sure. It's
It's
already
about-
happening. Yeah, it's already happening. You cannot. I'm sometimes I'm afraid of speaking my mind because you don't know what's gonna happen to you. But since I came here, I have this mindset that okay, um, I haven't been able to express my opinion for the longest time in my life. So now that I'm here, I'm not gonna do the same thing. I'm not gonna let this happen to me. I'm going to talk, whatever the consequences are.
Well,
Good.
we applaud you for that, and we kind of feel the same way. You know, I've often said I wouldn't be so lucky to be a martyr. Come, bring it, bring it. I wouldn't be so lucky.
So did you know that George Orwell actually, and the reason I brought this up is because you said your great grandparents went to Cuba to flee the regime in Spain, the Franco regime in Spain. Did you know that George Orwell went to Spain to fight for one of the socialist groups before writing Animal House and 1984?
No, I didn't know that.
And I think that's how he got red pilled.
I'm familiar with that term, red pilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he went there, and there was a bunch of different socialist groups, and they were going around and killing priests and nuns and shooting people, and they were Marxists, and he was part of that group, and he became disillusioned, and he actually got shot in the neck and almost died. And I think the name of the book that he wrote there for that experience was Farewell to Catalonia, I believe. I can't remember it predates those other books that I just mentioned, but that's when he became completely disillusioned with this whole Marxist ideology, and I think that was the inspiration for those other books.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I never had a chance to read these books in Cuba. All the education, your books, everything is controlled. In fact, when I learned that I was going out of Cuba to Spain for the first time, I was so scared of the real world. I was like, okay, I'm going out and I don't know anything. I don't know geography. I don't know history. What am I going to find when I come out? So I found this. It was like a map that my grandma has from like very long time. I opened the map and I memorized all the capitals of the world.
Really?
I don't remember half of them now, but I memorized all the capitals. I memorized all the regions of different countries, all of that. And I learned many other things in those books, in the LaRousse, all the dictionaries, everything. When I came out of Cuba and I went to Spain, I started high school again in Spain for the last year. And I realized that half of the capitals that I had learned were not capitals anymore.
Yes.
They were new capitals because the world had changed.
Yes.
But because I was reading such an old book from when my grandma was super young before the revolution, I had no idea.
Those were old maps.
Yeah. So it was a process of relearning everything, but some things I got right. And I was able to, sometimes when the teacher asked something, I answer, and the teacher was like, how come Gabriela coming from Cuba knows this and all of you were born in Spain and you don't know it? But he didn't know I had done my homework before leaving the country because I was scared of that happening. I was so scared. I was so ignorant.
So
Are you hearing this, people? Are you hearing what is on your podcast, on your screen right now? Do you know what freedom is? Do you know what it isn't? We need to wake up in this country if we want to save it. It is critical. They are taking all of our freedoms away. They make you wear masks. They make you take shots. They are telling us what to read in schools. They're telling us what not to read. They're letting men in women's locker rooms. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And until the people stand up, all of us, and take accountability for this country, it's going to be gone. It truly is. Hey, everybody, call 385. We're closing in on about 15 minutes to go here. 385-899-2134. We're talking with Gabby Pina, and we'd love to talk to you and see if you have any questions for us or for Gabby. Give us a call, 385-899-2134.
So Gabby, when you went to Spain, you went to Madrid, or where'd you go to? Where'd you live in Spain?
So we went to Tenerife, Canary Islands.
Oh, nice. Okay. And so your classmates there, how familiar were they with their history, Spanish history, and the revolution and the Franco regime, and what happened with the Marxists that tried to take over the country?
Well, in Spain, they actually teach a lot about history. They're very cultural about it. Since they're very young, they are taught about their history. They're taught Latin, Greek, or philosophy, all these subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually were pretty knowledgeable about it, but still, they don't have a conscience about socialism and communism and Marxism. They don't really care about it.
When you
It's
say
not a big deal.
you mean that they don't have an intuitive understanding of it, or they don't have an opinion?
They don't have an opinion. They don't know what's happening right now in Cuba, in Venezuela. They don't know how communism actually works. They're not very interested in politics. It's not like here, like in the United States, that at least you say, "Oh, are you pro or anti-immigrant, or are you pro or anti-trans movement?" Right? And people have an opinion usually. In Spain, most of the people, they don't really care.
I know what we have a lot of people watching on YouTube and on Twitter, as well as the website itself. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes to go. Please get over your fear. Call in, talk to us, talk to Gabby. Our number is 385-899-2134. Give us a call. We're ready to hear from you. Now's your time to stand up. Start right now.
So, Gabby, when you said that they didn't have an opinion, why do you think that is? Do you think that they just did not want to stand out amongst their peers and voice their opinion, and they were just shy? I mean, I know high schoolers are typically like that, but or do you think it was that they really didn't have an opinion?
Yeah, in Spain, at least from my opinion, from what I lived, all the high schoolers, they were not interested in politics. They had no knowledge about politics.
I would say
And
that's true.
recently there were big protests going on in Madrid, in the capital. I think also in Barcelona. People going against socialism because the Socialist Party in Spain is trying to take over. And people took to the streets and they were protesting against it. So I was very surprised because that side of Spain I didn't know when I was there. Again, I was in Spain only for 1 year and a half. I was 18 years old, so I was very young in high school. I didn't get a chance to connect with this field,
Yeah, no, it's interesting. The Vox Party is, I think, the populist party, a conservative populist party in Spain, and the Socialist Party is the one that's encouraging open immigration, which is really, it's nothing against those people that are going to Spain. Spain is a beautiful country. It's a wonderful place, but it really crushes and harms the people that already live there, particularly the lower and middle class people, because it harms their economic fortunes and takes resources from them. And I heard that it was recently there was one of the leaders of the party got stabbed in the neck.
Yeah.
Just recently, like in the last month.
Hey, Gabby, I'd like you to give us your phone number again on how people can get a hold of your organization, which is Utah Latino Republicans. throw out your number again so people can take it down and get a hold of your organization if they want to be part of it.
Okay, the number is 786-443-3162. Again, 786-443-3162.
I know, Gabby, that there are a lot of Spanish listeners that do not yet speak English very well. Is there anything that you would like to? I don't speak Spanish. Roy does. I think it would be
Not very well.
not very well, apparently, but I'd like you to have the opportunity to maybe reach out to some of those people right now. Is there anything that you can say to them in Spanish, like, here's our organization, here's how to get involved, please get involved, that kind of thing? So I'd like to just turn it over to you if you'd like to say a few words that way.
Yeah, sure. Okay, nuestra organización se llama Latinos Republicanos de Utah. Nos pueden contactar al 786-443-3162. Somos latinos, somos conservadores y por eso votamos por el Partido Republicano. La mayoría de latinos somos conservadores, aunque las redes sociales o cualquier información quieran hacerles saber que usted no es conservador. Piense en sus valores religiosos, en sus valores de familia y sus valores de libertad, su amor por la libertad. Eso es lo que nos hacen conservadores y por eso creamos esta organización, que pueden unirse a nosotros y pueden alzar su voz a favor de los valores de los latinos como conservadores.
Nice.
I don't know what you said, but I think Roy does. Roy, is there anything that we can follow up with what she said that made sense?
You know, I keep thinking about brainstorming with Gabby and perhaps other callers if they came in here, how to get, this message out. And I don't see this, what Gabby is saying, as it aligns with Republican values for sure, but I don't see it as exclusively a Republican message.
It's not. No, it's not. It's a people message. It really is.
Well, Gabby keeps saying it's a matter of helping people understand. You've been saying we don't understand what we have and what we can lose.
We truly don't.
And for me, I was one of those people that just was going about my business and life and really wasn't paying much attention. And it wasn't until I really started working in other countries to be able to contrast things. And to be blunt, Gabby, your story is the most extreme example that I've heard of a government. I mean, obviously I've read about Cuba and so on, but I've worked in Venezuela when Hugo Chavez was first elected. And I worked, from years before that while Hugo Chavez was there during the little coup that was supposed to happen. Then when he passed away and Maduro was installed, and I watched that country just kind of go down the path that you just, towards the direction that you're talking about.
Well, and that's what's happening here.
But even Venezuela wasn't as extreme as what you're talking about and what you describe in Cuba.
No,
even
that
Venezuela
went full
wasn't
on communist, and it is happening here. It reminds me of Animal House, of Orwell's 1984, and it also reminds me of that was a warning to us, and now it's become the manual for us to follow, that this is what is happening. And it reminds me of, and those of you out there that have not read Bonhoeffer by Eric Metaxas, he was trying to warn the Germans and the German church as the Nazis were taking power, but nobody would listen. Nobody would listen. They called him essentially an insurrectionist. They called him somebody that was threatening their country. And well, I hesitated to say that about Germany, but people just don't heed the warning. They cannot see what's happening is right before their very eyes, and all they need to do is stop and take a look around at what's actually happening. What's happening where Palestinian supporters can assemble in our streets in favor of people that slaughtered women, children, and babies. What does it come to when this kind of thing is celebrated in this country? You can see it happening. In Salt Lake County, men can go in women's locker rooms without repercussion. It's legal. Women can go in men's locker rooms on the reverse of that. What's happening in our schools? What's happening with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all that means and brings? What's happening with critical race theory and the false teachings narrative that's now happening in our schools? And we have to stand up and stop this. And Gabby, you can probably see it better than anyone, having come from it.
Yeah, and actually about diversity and inclusion and all that crap, I don't like it at all. It doesn't make any sense what they're trying to tell people. I'm Latina, I'm a woman, I don't even speak English perfectly, and I still was able to go to school, to graduate, to open my business, to work legally, and to do everything legally with good values, not cheating, not lying, you know, not scamming, and I'm able to be successful. I still have many goals that I know I'm going to achieve. Everything I have settled so far, I have achieved. How come if I'm Latina, I'm woman, I don't speak English very well, I'm immigrant, and I can do it? Then what is all this about inclusion, diversity? I see so many clips in universities, especially here in Utah, in their social media. They love putting up faces of Latinos or Latinas talking about how they feel so important just for being a Latino and being able to go to school. Okay, that's good, but why are you trying to push down people's throats the fact or the ideology that Latinos cannot achieve things if they don't have other Latinos around them? I went from Miami to Idaho with 2 years in the United States only of English. I didn't speak English at all, I would say, when I went to Idaho. All my roommates were Americans, blonde, white, blue eyes. I was never discriminated. I was able to go through school to get my degree. And I learned, and I had the same opportunities that anybody else had around me. I wasn't even an American at the time I went to school, and I made it. So why are they trying to push down people's throats that you need to have inclusion and people that look different around you in order for you to achieve things? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, they want to divide people. They want to segregate people into groups and factions that are fighting one another. They want reverse discrimination. They want everything that keeps the people divided so they won't unite against them.
That's Marxism.
Cultural Marxism is what Roy said. That's correct. And that's exactly what they're doing. Gabby, we want to thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been such a pleasure for me and so enlightening for me. I can't wait to get together with you again and try to set up some of these little cottage meetings that we can start educating our youth. Don't you think that's,
Yes.
I mean, it's, if you're willing to do it, like you said, we'll help.
At least one of my daughters.
At least one of his daughters, hopefully one of mine. And, I can't thank you enough. You've been awesome. And I would sure like you to come back on our program. Maybe next time, as we build our audience, we'll get a little more participation from them. I can't thank you enough and want to wish you a happy new year and all that.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate the opportunity. And of course, I'm down for any idea that you have, anything that we can do to keep, spreading the word and teaching people the truth about communism.
Well, we're all about that too. So,
Yeah.
so thanks again. And we'll sign off now. We want to thank everyone and say, God bless everyone out there, and please stand up. You're all great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.